And okay, according to that, we should be live, but we'll just give it a little while just to make sure. I can continue setting up.
I'm gonna pull up the chat. Yeah.
Chat should be this right here.
Okay.
But yes, I'll also pull up this here. Okay. And we should be good. Also, another thing just to keep in mind here, YouTube is broken. Like, so you know before we get into spoiler stuff, this is very important news here. So you know the whole thing about how, subscribe. It means that you want to see all that creators' videos. So you hit subscribe to see their videos. Doesn't work, but that's why they gave the bell icon. So you hit the bell icon, and then you can see all their videos, right? No. Bell icon default is set to alert you occasionally of uploads.
So you have to go in and change that?
It changes the occasionally to always. Like, YouTube is unbelievably broken. But in their defense, I also recently found out a problem among people on Twitter who are verified and have a lot of followers. Mentions on Twitter are also broken. A lot of times, people don't see people who are in their mentions.
That's true. Did you see the whole monetization potential fix?
Yes, I did. So which I really hope works. But anyway, sorry to bore you guys with the YouTube news. Hey guys, Nick here from Just Few Studios, and this is Let's Talk Movies, and we are talking about Avengers Infinity War. Yes, now, before we get into anything, this is a spoiler talk as well. 100% spoilers. We are going to be talking about spoilers.
We're going to ruin the movie for you, so if you haven't seen it, get out right now.
Yeah, that's literally why spoiler alert is just big letters on the thumbnail. Like, that's why. Just so there's no confusion here. Total spoilers. Got it on the whiteboard. Got it on the thumbnail. We're addressing it now. There's no going about it. If you complain in the comments saying you spoiled it, you clicked on the video. I don't know what to say. I apologize, but yeah.
Yes.
And also, I should try talking to the mic more. Sorry, but I got a loud voice, so,
It's okay.
Anyway, so we're just going to jump right into it here, and we have the chat pulled up as well. So if you guys want to talk about Infinity War as well, go for it. This can be kind of an open conversation. It's the great thing about Let's Talk Movies is it's kind of like a podcast, but a mini podcast on like one specific
topic.
With
it being live, it allows us to interact with you guys.
So the Let's Talk isn't just me and Dylan talking, it's everyone talking. And also, after the video goes out, you can leave comments, and I'll be sure to respond and keep the conversation going in the comment section down below. Definitely. Assuming you guys see this, because notifications are broken. Yeah. Anyway, where do we want to start in terms of Infinity War? Should we start at the beginning, or should we get the end WTFs out of the way?
Let's stay at the beginning, and we'll just work through it.
I like that mentality, because we've both seen it twice now, correct?
Yes, I've seen it twice. So I'm tempted to see it a third time, but we'll talk about that later.
So, movie picks up basically right after Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah.
If you don't see Thor Ragnarok, you're kind of just lost where...
Yeah, like, why does he have an eye patch and is on a ship? Yeah. Kind of, that's one of the few movies that you need to see right before Infinity War.
Well, my question is, so Black Panther is, like, going on as Thor Ragnarok is going on, right? If I'm okay, because I knew Black Panther fell right in there, and then... But because Ragnarok does take place right there, so...
Yeah, and they do mention, like, Black Panther, what's the name of his aide, the general? I don't remember her name, but she said something along the lines of, when you said we were going to open ourselves up, I wasn't envisioning this. Yeah. Like a Starbucks or something. Like, that was a good line. Anyway, movie picks up, Thor's ship is being basically destroyed by Thanos and the Dark Order via the Sanctuary 2, which is the name of that giant ship you saw at the end of Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so the two first casualties, which kind of set the tone for the movie, was Heimdall dying and Loki dying. So, Loki, I had a feeling, would die. Yeah. I felt it was his time.
He's died enough.
He's died enough.
He's got to stay dead now.
Love Tom Hiddleston, but I think his character has come full circle.
Well, it's been like this.
Well, yeah, but in terms of, like, a solid story arc.
Yeah.
Started off being, that kind of younger brother who just wanted to just totally take everything from Thor to being a good guy, basically, by the end of Ragnarok and beginning of Infinity War.
And then you get that, then you have those moments in his arc where you have those betrayal moments, and it just goes back and forth, so you never
but I felt
quite...
like the two, beginning and end point, were, like, that's the most honest we've really seen him. Like, I had no doubts watching Infinity War, like, he was 100% on Thor's side.
Yeah,
even the moments where
you see the knife thing. He cuts to Thor's eye, and then you see the knife appear in his hand. So like that he's trying to defend.
Exactly, which is good. I thought that was the perfect way for Loki to die.
Yeah, it was like a sacrifice in my eyes.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Heimdall at least kick a little ass and not just be half dead and go to full dead. But at least
he did have a significant
part. Again, though, one thing I'm curious about is maybe they just said, fuck you, Idris Elba, but Idris Elba, who plays Heimdall, said he wanted a bigger part in the MCU. So it could be the thing where they killed off Heimdall to give him another role later down the line. We'll have to see. Maybe Galactus could be cool. Or someone in that Fantastic Four.
It's got to be someone we haven't seen before, obviously.
We're going to cast him as Captain America.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more of Idris Elba, because I thought you did a good job as Heimdall.
Yeah.
And then the Hulk-Thanos fight was interesting.
Oh, yeah. So
you start.
So, like, we briefly talked about this before we started this, but when you're watching it, you get this, like, slight feeling that Hulk actually has a chance, and then Thanos actually kicks in and it's gone.
Well, and Maz has a great line of let him have his fun.
Yeah.
Where Thanos is just kind of toying with Hulk. And two great things.
He's basically getting into Hulk's head. He lets him think he's going to win and then just lets it out.
Which is probably a good explanation for why we don't see Hulk later in the movie.
Yes.
But two things I thought was nice was they gave Loki the line of we have a Hulk, which was used against him in the first Avengers. I thought that was a fantastic touch.
I like that.
And then also, I think it really well sets up. There's still a little bit of confusion on the whole Hulk thing, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's just the fact that Hulk finally met someone who's stronger than him.
Because never before has he met someone that is...
Abomination, another Hulk. Hulk kicked the shit out of Abomination. Loki, not a chance. Ultron, not a chance. Like this
anyone
is
he's ever fought, he's just smashed. So.
Like Hulkbuster was kind of an even fight, but if Tony didn't get that last jab out, Hulk would have been good to go for longer. So I feel like this is the first time Hulk has met someone who's like, you are legitimately stronger than me and can kick my ass any day of the week.
Well, and that's why we don't ever see Hulk again.
Yeah.
And like this. Between Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War, you do see this arc in his character, so I'll be curious to see where that goes afterwards.
Well, and also, thanks to Ragnarok, Hulk is a legitimate character now. He's not just a giant. So I wonder if that's playing into the fact why Hulk kind of gets a say.
Because Hulk has a personality now.
Yeah.
He's not just a monster. He's actually he has a brain. He has that sense of humanness in a way.
Yeah. In no other film it was a debate whether Bruce would Hulk out or not. In fact, it was always the opposite.
Like whenever he didn't want to Hulk out, he just kind of did.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's the fact that Hulk now feels like because he has more personality, more of a brain, that he feels like he should have a say. Maybe that could also be part of it.
And that's when even when he's in the Hulkbuster suit and he's trying to Hulk out and you hear Hulk say no, he doesn't want to come out. So.
Yeah, so I found that really interesting. And another note I want to talk about before we leave the whole intro is Thor says that half his people were killed. I don't know how half the people got away. In Ragnarok, you saw that ship was filled to the brim of people. Could you imagine how long it would take to execute a city's amount of that people? New York City executing those 12 million people, not gonna happen. That would take a week to get everyone out of there. I don't know how you could get half of those people out of there in the amount of time it would take ship to rise, pew. So. Oh,
and then going back to the intro, that opening scene where you see what's his name stepping over the bodies.
Maw.
Yeah. So that scene, it just shows you the extreme, and that opening dialogue, I really enjoyed that too. And
I also love that this film, not afraid to show Thanos committing total genocide.
Basically, yeah.
Half of the Asgardian people, assuming half, I say 90%, of the Asgardian people just dead. Like, that's crazy that they had the balls to do that, but I applaud them for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else to talk about with that beginning bit?
No, I don't think so.
Cool Easter egg with the Bifrost sending Hulk to the Sanctum, because in the comics it was Silver Surfer who crashed down after getting his ass kicked and warning the Avengers. They gave that to Banner in this movie, which I thought was a good nod to the comics.
There was a lot of nods to. There was a lot, in which I really enjoyed. So that's
mainly from the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, which was cool.
And Marvel took a lot of chances with this movie, and I'm really happy with it. And I hope they stay on this path. I hope it wasn't just a one-time thing, because I really enjoyed. The universe
needs more consequence. They played around with it. Hi. They played around with it a little bit in Civil War, but still, like, the consequence was
it was minimal.
Barely any. It was that kind of, we say there's consequence, but there's not really.
Yeah.
This movie felt like there's consequence.
Definitely.
We have to see if that sticks, but as of right now, it looks like there's going to be
and once we get towards the end, we can talk about how some of it isn't going to stick, but
hopefully a good amount.
A good amount, yeah.
So chronologically, next would be basically what Tony and the Sanctum Sanctorum stuff, just kind of talking about the Infinity Stones before Maw and Black Dwarf show up. Or, sorry, Cobalt Obsidian, because Dwarf is racist. Even though there's a literal dwarf in the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do we want to talk about there?
Well, the one thing after, when they're talking about the Infinity Stones after Banner flies through the roof, like, the whole thing where, like, the 5 stones, like, are up in the air, and they kind of talk about it, and then when Strange opens up his and shows the time stone, I thought that was a cool touch, because, I mean, he has it.
It shows the location.
It shows the location.
You know, these aren't just like, whoa, these could be anywhere. Well, we literally have one.
It, yeah.
Like, one thing I want to point out, which is a weird continuity thing with Marvel that I'm kind of happy, kind of not happy about, is Pepper. They are just throwing her around, and, like, you can't follow that zigzagging path. The fact that Gwyneth Paltrow was like, nope, I'm done with the MCU during Civil War, so they're like, okay, well, Tony and Pepper broke up. But then Homecoming, like, they're back together, and, like, there's even that proposal gag, and, like, haha, that's funny. Oh, wait, they're actually getting married now, it turns out. Like, that just feels weird to me. Like, there's a lot of assumptions being made, and with so much happening in these movies, they don't have time to explain the relationship.
But I think it's a minor thing where it doesn't hurt it enough to ruin it.
I think it's not a problem with the movie. It's more so just a weird flaw with the continuity of
It's a
Marvel
nitpick thing. I see what you're saying.
But, like, to where, like, the last movie, not counting Homecoming, that Tony Stark was in, where he was the main character, was Civil War, where it's literally in that movie, Pepper's gone. I gotta figure out how to be me without her. Immediately to no explainer, like, hey, I got a wedding ring, let's get married in Homecoming. Like, that's just a huge jump that they make a lot of assumptions about. But hopefully, maybe Avengers 4, if she wasn't turned to dust, we can get some more explainer. Or maybe she was turned to dust, and that gives Tony a chance to explain to Cap.
Out, because
I bet Cap is just as confused as I am.
Yeah, basically.
Also, one nod that I thought was cool, and I'm skipping slightly ahead, was the fact, like, on all the TVs showing that Tony is no longer on Earth.
Yeah.
That's interesting from a character standpoint. Because it shows, like... Because even Cap admitted that he was the Avengers' heaviest hitter. So that makes... Imagine, like, being a normal person on Earth during this movie and knowing, like, hey, you know, the Avenger, he's gone while Thanos is here. Like, mentality-wise, that's gotta be crazy.
Alarming.
Especially for all the other characters to think about. And also, like, even from Pepper's point of view, Tony could be dead. Like, those characters don't know the fate of him. And then in that post-credit scene with Nick Fury, even he's like, any sign of Tony? Nope. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Or what's left of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't even know. So I kind of... That's another thing that, again, consequence. I hope that plays...
Well, and then, because, I mean, there's that one scene where Tony... Or I think it was Tony who said something about, oh, the Avengers aren't together anymore, and all that. And so then you see, like, a brief reformation which I thought was kind of cool.
Well, so, it looks like we'll see a bigger one in Avengers 4, which is going to be awesome. Anyway.
We'll talk about that later.
Anything else we want to talk about with that bit with... I loved Doctor Strange and Tony. That was a great
combination, yeah.
Yeah, I think I liked it better than even Thor and the Guardians. Like, I think Doctor Strange Tony was my favorite pairing.
Yeah. And, like, some of the mental battles that you see are faced in this movie are, like, crazy. Like, the whole Doctor Strange with Tony thing. Then you see... Thanos with Gamora. Which
Their relationship was very interesting, and I liked.
Yeah, it was like something. It was just something that was kind of unexpected.
Love hate to the extreme.
Yeah, literally extreme.
Yeah.
So.
But there are a lot of great pairings in this movie.
Definitely.
And then you get to the fight with Maw, Black Dwarf versus Tony, Doctor Strange, and then later Spider-Man. That fight was awesome to me.
Yeah.
It was much better in my opinion than the Hulk Thanos fight, because I had a lot of problems with that fight in terms of a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah.
Rewatch Civil War. It's on Netflix. You can do it anytime. That movie for me is now hard to watch. It did, in my opinion, there's a lot of elements still amazing. A lot of other elements that did not age well, and the action was one of them. That movie was very quick cut action. And the continuity's all over the place in those fights. Like, there's a fight at the very beginning of the movie where Black Widow, like, goes for a punch or a kick, and her fist is down here. In the very next clip, her fist is up here. And that happens so many times in Civil War.
Yeah.
So my complaint with the Thor-Thanos fight is it was still that style of the quick cut.
You mean the Hulk Thanos?
Or the Hulk, sorry, what did I say, Thor?
Thor.
The Hulk-Thanos fight. It was still that very quick cut, but that was... one of the only fights that felt that way. All the others were shot much better.
Well, and I think the thing with that fight is that it was just so quick. Like, there just wasn't... Like, all the other fights lasted longer.
Yeah.
So this one was just... It was the opening fight, and two, it just didn't really last.
And I'm guessing it's very hard to have a fight between two giant CGI creatures.
Yeah.
Like, from a directing standpoint, like...
That's why we don't see a lot of camera... Like, there just isn't a lot of camera changes.
Yeah, that entire fight was animated.
Yeah,
There's nothing about that was practical. I assume, unless maybe the set wasn't a green screen, but even then, you got a real set, then everything in that set's animated.
It's fake, yeah, so...
It's still... I can imagine them doing long takes and it just looking weird because it's two CGI creatures.
Yeah.
But that could be part of why.
But the other action scenes made up for it, so...
Yes, I loved the banter during that fight.
Yeah.
All the erectile dysfunction jokes with Banner was great. Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the Wizards.
The Wizards, yeah.
I love that they called him the Wizards. Or,
the Wizard.
The Doctor Strange and Juan Wizards.
Yeah, because Tony calls them that multiple times. It's like, he's like, there's the Wizard, go, yeah. So
Spider-Man, it felt... Something about it was really cool seeing him and Tony in that park against Black Dwarf.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was from a color standpoint or what. Like, the CGI could have been maybe a hair better, but overall, like, the colors, the red and blue of Spider-Man's suit, the red and yellow of Tony,
and then the green of the park.
The green of the park, like, visually,
the blue
that
sky,
fight was awesome.
It looked really good. Also, remind me to talk about something else about Spider-Man later on, once we get later on in the movie.
Gotcha.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker, to me, like, you see a total, like, he fits so well in this movie. Like, it's crazy.
Like,
I mean, because Spider-Man doesn't have too much of a personality. It's more of Peter Parker than anything. And you see a lot of that, which I really like.
And I feel like, because this movie was not a Spider-Man movie, of course. If anything, it was a Thanos movie.
Yeah.
But the Spider-Man character was a great flavor, I feel. Like, I imagine Spider-Man being, like, a seasoning on the Infinity War meal. Like,
basically,
that just...
Tops
that
it
movie
all
without
off.
Spider-Man, plot-wise, it wouldn't have been any different, but in terms of, like, emotions and certain, like, laughs, I felt he was the perfect little extra spice.
I feel it does, I feel without Spider-Man, it does change a little bit, though. Because the scene when they get up on the ship, and then he's like, oh, have you seen Alien?
Well, again, though, they could have come up with another
Something,
explanation.
yeah, that's
for
true.
That. Like,
But
Tony could have done that himself, even. Because I think Tony did everything but grab Doctor Strange, so
basically,
they could have found another workaround
that's true.
for that, even, but... and then that was also kind of the part of the movie where things split. Sorry, you can probably hear my Mac going off there. I apologize. But basically, that's also the point where movie kind of splits from space to Earth, because also
And you
that's
see
where,
the two halves, yeah.
Yeah, and then also I think that's the introduction of Guardians.
Yeah.
Is about that
right
point too.
there.
Which
Because
again,
you get that cool cutscene where
Yeah.
it's like space and
I also love the fact, like, in Civil War, I liked the big titles they had there. In this movie, they're more lower.
they're like
but-
a lower third, and they're not too distracting, but they add something.
Yeah, but I remember in, like, Civil War, they're, like, very specific locations. And the first one in Infinity War just said space,
yeah.
which I thought was hilarious. I bust out laughing just because, like, I'm used to it being, like, Berlin, London, like, a specific city.
And we see some of those here.
Yeah.
But
I just love the
first
first
one is
one.
space.
And for Guardians, of course, it's just, like, space.
Because, I mean, they're just flying around.
Like, that could literally be anywhere.
Anywhere.
They could be on Earth, and you could technically call that space. Like, I love
Basically.
how...
In the Earth's
nothing-
atmosphere, and they're just...
Like, that's the most nothing descriptor ever, but I love it, because that's
Yeah.
perfect for the Guardians.
And then the music there was just obviously perfect,
Yeah.
because...
Drax was a comedic standout in this movie.
yeah.
He's probably my favorite comedic character in this whole movie.
Yeah.
Everything from the being invisible...
Oh, that was...
Like-
I'm moving so slowly that you can't see me.
Like, from my past experience, when you're writing a script, like, that's typically a moment like that is just one of those moments that you're like, yeah, we're going to cut that for time. I love they kept that in.
But
that
it
was
needed...
so-
I think with the moment that went on right before it, when with her asking
yeah.
to be killed, basically...
It's a perfect bounce, which
Yeah.
Marvel's fantastic at.
Which it needed, because you have a super dramatic moment, then you have, like... It picks it up a little bit with, like, the whole love thing, and then all of a sudden the spike up with the laughs.
Yeah,
and
like,
it just fits perfect.
Take DC, for example. Because I think that's the biggest difference right now between DC and Marvel. Marvel knows how to do organic humor perfectly. They've mastered that better than anyone.
Yeah.
And also shifting between tones, but making it feel natural. Another
true.
thing they've done extremely well.
And even quick shifts in tone. It doesn't even have to be gradual. It can be a quick, but
I mean,
it's
like,
still done really
Look
well.
at DC. Like, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, Marvel can go to A to B and it feels natural. DC could go to A to B and you have, like, 12 questions in between.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the biggest thing that DC needs to learn from this movie, is how to do those two things.
Yeah.
But, Thor, I thought, was great with the Guardians. Still, I think Doctor Strange and Tony was the best pairing, but that was still an awesome
It was
pairing.
so, yeah. And then, can we talk about one character that I absolutely hated in this movie? I didn't, like, I mean, I hate him. Like, I mean, he was a good part of the movie, but I couldn't stand Star-Lord.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
He was just, like, I mean, I understand his point, but he was just really annoying.
Yeah, he could have definitely been done better. There were a few moments that I thought was good, but overall, I liked him in that confrontation between Avengers and Guardians when they kind of met up.
No, I like that.
But I agree. There's a lot of moments where his character
like
wasn't very Peter Quill.
Like when they were trying to get the gauntlet off of Thanos.
Yeah,
like,
I'd also say that Thor interaction there. Like, it was kind of funny, his whole, I'm not, the deeper voice stuff.
Yeah.
Still, though, I think his character, like, in terms of writing, could have been handled a little bit better.
Yeah, I feel that. But I don't know. Even though I liked what Groot added to the movie. It wasn't much, but it was still something.
I'm gonna be honest though, I was expecting a little bit more from Teenage Groot, but to be fair, James Gunn, I believe, did clarify that this isn't quite Teenage Groot, this is adolescent Groot.
Well, and I mean, he's already 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah, I believe it's the difference between, like, 12 and 15 would be, like, the human version of that. So, he's supposed to be more like the 12-year-old, not a 16-year-old human version.
Which we kind of get, because, I mean, a lot of times he's just playing video games most of the time. But then he does he does have a key role in the movie, which, when it comes to making Thor's hammer, which I really like. So, he, like, burns himself, and, like, it's like you see a little bit of a sacrifice for not anyone dying, like basically.
And give me a sec. I'm gonna mute my notifications there because like
you want me to hit the mute button?
Yeah, go for it. Because I've been getting like no text messages today, and then as soon as we hit record, it's just bing, bing, bing. That's also why I'm glad we're recording this on top of live streaming it, so I can edit this out easily.
All right.
But yeah, anyway, cool. So where are we off to now? So we just did Sword Guardian stuff. This is where I'm starting to get a little bit hazy.
So what did you...
Scarlet Witch is next.
Oh, yeah. Well, really quick. What did you think about Rocket?
So Rocket I thought was good. My favorite moments of Rocket, though, was probably closer to the end. Like, him and Thor, that was another really good pairing. I liked seeing him on Earth. That worked for me better. Yeah. Which is another reason I'm excited for Avengers 4. Because I'd love to see him and Tony together.
That would be cool.
Because, Rocket and Drax, I thought, were the two standouts of the Guardians.
Yeah.
Gamora in a different way.
Yeah, Gamora added to the story, obviously.
Yes, but in terms of good characters, I thought Drax and Rocket were fantastic.
I mean, Gamora didn't have much of a character development. Like, I mean...
She was more of kind of boosting Thanos' character.
Which worked, obviously, but it was in a different... So she, in my eyes, for this movie, she wasn't really a part of the Guardians.
No, you're right.
She kind of took
she's like a
pit
plus
stop.
One to Thanos.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It was like a pit stop.
Yeah. This is the first movie where I thought Scarlet Witch and Vision's relationship made sense.
Well, yeah, because at first you open up the scene where they're in the bedroom and you see Vision at the window, and you can clearly tell he's in agony, basically, and he's hurting, and he can tell something's not right.
And Civil War, I did not think the relationship chemistry-wise worked. This movie, I think the biggest difference was on the dialogue. And the way that Vision talked. He was legitimately nervous. He legitimately cared. That was much more apparent. Where in Civil War, I felt like they weren't ready to commit to that.
I would say, the Gamora-Thanos character relationship arc was good, but I almost want to say that the Scarlet Witch and Vision one was better.
Yes, and especially by the end, they actually... This is also one of the movies where I felt more for Scarlet Witch. Yeah. Avengers 2, I was like, well, she's here now. Okay, sure. Civil War, I kind of liked her more as, like, a catalyst. Kind of like what Gamora was for this movie. She was for Civil War. This is the movie where I'm like, her character...
You see her shine. Yes. Because you see her have her moments. It's not just about being Vision's plus one. It's about being her own character.
If anything, I think it's the reverse.
Vision is she saves him more than he saves her.
Which I never thought I would say after watching Age of Ultron, but it's true. And this movie also, Vision felt more human, which is, I think, another reason the relationship helped. That I think they've both evolved enough for the relationship to make sense, because if you noticed, her accent has been slowly becoming more westernized, and then he's gone from being very kind of cold towards humanity. In the beginning, he was very optimistic, but unsure, like he didn't understand humanity. Now it feels like he is more human than android.
You see, two halves of him. So basically, you have, Vision is basically, you see his human half, but then you also see the other half, too. Mm-hmm. So I like that aspect of it, too.
In Age of Ultron, it was like he was a god. He was and the way that he spoke about humans, too. It was like, I don't understand you, but I'll help you, kind of a thing. Yeah. This movie, he probably understands them more than he understands himself. So I thought their relationship worked.
And going off of that, when they all meet up, and then I think it was Banner who said something about with everything that Vision has surrounding him, there's more to him and when the whole suggesting that they take out the stone, they were suggesting that he's not just there is a human side to him. Yeah. And they can get to that if they take out the stone.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about Vision when we address the ending, but and also that fight between him, Cornelius Glaive, and Proxima Midnight. I actually thought that fight was pretty good. Again, that had a little bit of quick cut, but overall, I thought was great.
Cap's intro
with
the train going by, and then you see him come out of the shadow.
God, that was
great. Phenomenal.
And again, that was another scene where I thought Scarlet Witch was fantastic. Yeah. She wasn't playing a damsel role. She wasn't taking a support role. She was at the very front end of that fight.
She was leading it.
Yes. Basically. Even when Cap was there, I still felt that she was a main presence in that fight.
She made herself be known. Mm-hmm. So that was...
She was doing more than Vision was, I felt like. Yeah. Granted, he got
stabbed. And he was weak and all that.
Yeah, but she just absolutely kicked ass.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thought that was great. And again, it was a good introduction to not only Cap, seeing kind of what's going on with Falcon, Black Widow. Yeah. They're kind of the secret Avengers, as I'm guessing what Marvel's alluding to here. There might actually be a secret Avengers movie, but right now, in terms of the Marvel universe, I feel like they're the secret Avengers, kind of doing the more vigilante kind of Avengers stuff, going wherever they're needed.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. Cap's beard. I love the look of Cap in this movie.
He looked really good.
Like, even watching Civil War, I was like, yeah, that's Cap, but Infinity War Cap is like, oh, that's great.
You're like, wow, this is the Cap I didn't know I needed until...
Exactly. Like, legitimately, I loved Civil War Cap so much in terms of a design, so much I got the pop for him. I am legitimately considering now getting the Infinity War Cap pop, because I think I like that as much, if not better, than this Cap. Like, this is comic book Cap. In terms of, like, a new design, Infinity War, if he didn't have the Wakanda shields and he had, like, a hologram shield, that would be my Cap. Like, that's... put this back.
Alright, so...
Cool. So, yeah, then they get on the ship, and then we see Wakanda for, like, a shot, basically. Yeah. Where they also then give Bucky his new arm.
Yeah, which was cool.
Winter Soldier didn't serve a huge role in this movie, but I didn't think he needed to.
No.
I think he was in it for just the right amount. Because one can
and I think he was in there to be in there more than anything, which I'm okay with. He made an appearance, and he didn't feel overwhelmed. Yeah. So he felt in there a good amount.
Like, I'm not sure what else they should have done with his character. I think it would be a little bit out of place to make him a big deal.
I think if they tried to do something more with his character, it would have upset people more than him not having much of a role.
And I think the reason it's okay he's in it for a little amount is just because Tony wasn't on Earth. If Tony was on Earth, then maybe make him a bigger deal because of Civil War. But I think they didn't need to, because Cap knew he was good. Everyone who was there knew he was good. So I don't think there was a need for a conflict.
Yeah. Oh, and then going back to Rocket really quick, one of my favorite lines of his was with the whole arm thing. When he's, oh, could I have that arm? And then he's like, oh, I'll get it. Because, with the whole eyeball scene, so he's good at smuggling body parts.
Well, even the first Guardians, didn't he get somebody's leg or something?
Yeah, I like that little touch.
That was a fantastic
The humor in this movie was phenomenal.
Yes.
I was going into it, I didn't know how much to expect. Mm-hmm. And I guess I didn't know how much I wanted to expect until I came out of the movie. And it seemed like a perfect amount.
Yes. And one thing that I loved is it all felt natural.
It was purposeful, too. And it was purposeful, because it was the humor always fell at a moment when there was high tension. So the humor kind of cut that tension down a little bit.
Yeah.
So there wasn't...
I felt Ragnarok forced the humor a little bit too much.
Yeah.
This movie I thought did it perfectly.
Yeah.
So yeah, because like in Ragnarok there are a few moments where I thought the humor detracted from the story, whereas in Infinity War I think it helped boost it up. It made the world feel like it was breathing and living.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great addition. Where were we just at in terms of the film?
The whole Wakanda thing, and then
does it jump back to Thor maybe?
I think so.
I feel like that's a jump. It was either Thor or the Guardians. I think it jumped to something in space, or it could have been Iron Man. It was one of the like non-Earth things. I think it jumped to.
It could have gone to Titan. No.
I don't think they're on Titan yet.
No, they didn't go to Titan yet.
Yeah, I could have jumped to the spaceship with Maul, but Yeah, I'm still impressed with our memory this far in. Like,
I do want to go. I briefly want to touch on the scene where with them saving Strange.
mm-hmm.
So the thing I want to talk about with Spider-Man, one of my favorite lines of his is the whole when Tony gets pissed at him for coming up there and says that he needs to be back. He was sent home for a reason, and that he's just a neighborhood Spider-Man. It's that he doesn't. There's not, and when so he says there, I can't be a neighborhood Spider-Man if there isn't a neighborhood to save. And then, but then to me that line made perfect sense. And then he like second guesses himself when Tony has nothing to say and says, well, that doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. So like that was when I don't know why, it was like one of my favorite lines in the movie as far as, especially his character, because I mean it's Peter Parker at that point, and so it just proves that his commitment to being a neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, and another movie reference, and then we got more of the banner between Doctor Strange and Tony, which again, that banner felt perfect.
Yeah.
It's like the two assholes in a room together. It's basically what it is. And then Spider-Man just being the "Hey, I'm here." I thought that was perfect.
Oh yeah. And then it's like, oh, the two adults are talking right now.
And then you also got, we're using our superhero names. Like, there's so much good dialogue there.
Yeah, and then the whole thing where Tony's like, well, I think we need to bring the stone to him, because that was when they decided that they were going to head to Titan and face him that way. Oh, and then the scene with Tony and Star-Lord where Tony's like trying to give a plan, and then he's like, oh, well, if we use... He's like, that's a good idea, but it would be better if we just use my idea, and it might actually work. Also,
it was great seeing the difference between Avengers and Guardians when they're together, because the Guardians are like the casual superheroes, where Avengers are like the professionals.
The hard, yeah.
So it's like Drax is yawn, Mantis is, what was it, kick names and take ass.
Oh yeah,
like,
that was...
There's a lot of... and Drax like, oh yeah. It's like not even like he didn't even listen to her. Like that, that was great.
Yeah.
And then Tony's reaction was awesome. Just looking at like, didn't know what to say, just was perfect. But
also Tony's line when he's like, oh, okay, you're an Avenger now. And then you see like Peter's look on his face, and he just like, he's like, you see that moment of like excitement in him, and then you see like a more like serious look from him. And even though it was like, it was probably drawn out longer than it needed to be, I think it added.
It was a good moment.
Yeah, it was a strong moment to him, because you have that moment in.
There's so many now. It is, in your defense, it is getting legitimately hard to remember the names of these movies.
So, okay, what? Oh no! At the end of Homecoming, when in the end credit scene where you see him turn down the offer to become an Avenger, and then you get the moment in Infinity War where he's either like, it's basically, I got a feeling it was more of like a temporary thing, but it was one of those things where it was still a cool moment.
Yeah. So then jumping into, I think the Guardians bit was next, or at least close enough for us to talk about, with the Reality Stone. Like, I'm gonna be honest, Thor: The Dark World didn't do a good job at showing me what the Reality Stone could do. It just seemed kind of like generic bad guy prop. This movie, that whole scene with Thanos using it, that
he uses it enough. He doesn't use it too much, but he uses it.
He uses it well. Yeah. Like the Gamora fake stabbing Thanos scene. Yeah. Like, that was the moment where I realized, holy shit, the Reality Stone is powerful. Like, I didn't even realize it could do that.
I mean, all the stones have their... it's hard to even rank them, because all the stones have so many strengths to them.
It's like almost like Last Airbender, to where it's like you got the 4 elements and they're all good, but it's like some, if you know how to use them, you can use them well. In this movie, it showed like if you know how to use the stones, holy shit, are they powerful.
Which we could talk about more at the end once we get to the ending and what future lies ahead, but that is going to play a huge role on how to use them.
And then are you good to jump ahead a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm good to jump ahead.
So then you get Thor and Rocket getting his Stormbreaker axe, which we can talk about that whole scene as a whole now. from the trailers, I thought that section was going to be slow in that segment where it's like, okay, but cut back to the real action. I thought it was great in this movie.
No, and the part where you see Thor hold open the thing, whatever it's called, to be able to melt the metal for his hammer, that was pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
And then you have Groot's sacrifice, or not? It's not even really a sacrifice, because
it's a sacrifice for a 12-year-old Groot.
Well, and it's not. It's a temporary sacrifice because I mean, he obviously burns his hand to put the hammer together and uses his hand as the hammer, but then he just grows a new arm. It was like the next time we see him, he had an arm again.
Yeah,
so.
Again, for like a kid, like you sacrificed something.
So that was his biggest
contribution.
Which I mean, it would have been cool to see more, but at the same time, they had so many characters that they had to work with that having too much with him would have made it not feel right.
Yeah, I hope we see more actual teenage Groot in maybe Volume 3 or something. Yeah. But yeah, this Groot was a little underplayed, but I think it was good in the context of Infinity War. Yeah. And I'm getting a call from Raphael, so cut this out here. Hey. Okay, cool. You can head over whenever then. We're just recording something currently, but you're good just to head on over. Okay, see you soon. Alright, bye. Sorry about that, guys. And then, I also liked Peter Dinklage's dwarf character. Yeah. It was very different than I expected, because he was a dwarf, but a giant dwarf, which I knew the dwarves weren't like typical dwarves from the comics. I don't think they looked like that, though. Like, let me see if I can pull up what the comic book version of his character looked like. But it was definitely different, and part of me feels like, if you don't know Peter Dinklage, typically he picks characters, aside from, Game of Thrones, that, like, he doesn't want a character who is a dwarf. He wants that to be just an additional attribute to his character, not a defining piece of his character. Part of me thinks, like, Marvel was like, okay, hear us out. You'll be playing a dwarf, but you'll be a giant dwarf. Like, Peter Dinklage's an amazing actor. Marvel Thor dwarf. Hopefully that's enough keywords, because I don't remember his name. There's that, which... Hold on. Where's a better image? That's kind of what I remember them looking like, but I don't think they were that big. I could be misremembering it, but where? I'm also curious if we'll ever get Thor losing his arm, but I'm glad he has Stormbreaker. That's an amazing comics thing that I'm very happy with. Also because the
you see the power,
is awesome.
And you see the power of it.
Oh my god!
At the end,
Thor was probably one of, if not my favorite Avengers in this movie. Yeah, which has never been the case. Yeah, but I thought he was great.
As far as Ragnarok, I did start to like his character in Ragnarok a little bit more towards the end, and I wanted to see more, and we got to see that.
In fact, Ragnarok, it kind of did what Civil War did for Spider-Man for me, where it's like, okay, good start, let me see more of his character, which I think Infinity War did very well.
Well, and that was the same case with Infinity War for Spider-Man for me, too. After Homecoming, I was nearly sold on Tom Holland. I just needed to see it a little bit more, and that's what this was for me, too.
But then we talked about it briefly, the interaction with the Guardians and Avengers, which I thought was amazing. Yeah.
Because it looks like it's getting ready to be a full-blown it starts to be a full-blown fight, and then they realize that they're fighting against the same person,
and I love where's Gamora? I'll do you one better. Who is Gamora?
And then,
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Oh, and then it's, which god do you serve? And he's like, am I? Oh, yeah, which? Yeah, and then he's like, am I supposed to say Jesus?
Like, that scene was amazing. I love that. Yeah. That's, like, definitely going to be one of those movie clip YouTube clips in, like, a year from now. It will be. Guardians meet Avengers or something, but that was such a great bit.
Then we could probably cut to that first scene on Titan.
Yeah, Titan.
I loved all the scenes on Titan.
Yes,
Titan looked phenomenal too.
Another thing that you and I have been back and forth talking about since we saw the movie, because we didn't go to the same showing, but
it was at the same time.
Same movie theater, and it's if you've never gone to, at least in our area, California and New York, the bigger cities are slightly different. Typically, the premieres are like, okay, movie theaters are allowed to show it, the earliest being about 7 p.m. typically.
Our time.
Our time. And so 7 p.m. our time, but all the movies, auditoriums in that theater are just gonna be Avengers. So it's like, you're not going to the same showing as one person, maybe, in our case, but like 1,000 people are basically seeing Infinity War at the same time, just in different auditoriums, and it's the first time they're seeing.
And the theater that we went to had showings all the way up until 2 in the morning.
Yeah, so
as the start time.
But
Titan,
basically
phenomenal.
Going back to what we're talking about, one thing we've been back and forth talking about is Doctor Strange has a bit there where he says, where he basically uses the time stone to look at all the possible outcomes for what's going to happen. And
you see him like tripping out,
and he says he looked at
14,605
possibilities, and there's only one where they win,
which
you
has a huge role.
Though. Yes, because from what it looks like, they are still in the one where they win. It just wasn't a win here; it's a win the war, not win the battle type thing.
Yeah, which is, I guess we could talk about Strange's sacrifice now. Mm-hmm. Because it kind of goes along with the whole Titan scene.
Yeah, which that fight between Thanos
and everyone else, that was my favorite fight, I think.
Well, also, I just loved how absurd and comic booky it was. The fight starts out basically with Tony dropping, what was that? Like
a
boulder or a
mountain?
Piece of ship or something, just on Thanos.
Then you have Spider-Man throwing a web on his face.
Which is another comic book nod. And then just them all blasting, shooting Thanos.
Everything.
And he has 4 stones by this point. We have to talk about Gamora.
Oh, yeah.
4 stones at this point. And he's just using all 4 to the max, turning stuff to, like, bats, bubbles.
The soul.
Using the power stone. Like, he uses all the stones incredibly well there.
Which we'll talk about right at the end, too.
I believe the reason why they're still in the one where they sacrifice is, unless they could have... I'm guessing what all the possibilities would be. Either A, they got the gauntlet off, but Thanos is still probably, without the gauntlet, stronger than the Hulk. He could have probably got it back. And still, with the 4 stones, could have kicked all their asses, and no matter what, have gotten the time stone from Doctor Strange.
So going back to the whole sacrifice that Strange makes, so basically, because Tony gets nearly killed.
Yeah,
basically.
I legitimately thought, like, wow, they're killing off Tony Stark.
It's like all right, Robert Downey, but so you think he's done, and then you have Strange willing to sacrifice the stone, which he said previously that he wouldn't hesitate to put before him or the kid, as in Peter Parker. But you see him give up the stone to save Tony.
Yes.
That's the sole purpose right there. Which I think is part of that one thing that they win.
I think it's partially him gaining empathy for Tony, but I think it's also like the fact of him realizing no matter what, Thanos is going to get the stone anyway, and in the case that 50% of everyone gets wiped out, if Tony happens to be one of those who live, that is, he needs to be able to survive for that.
Tony is going to be I believe is going to play a key role in them defeating Thanos in some way, because Tony knows something. Tony knows something, and Strange knows that Tony knows something, so he had to keep Tony alive.
Yep. So backing up a little bit now to the Soul Stone part of the film with Gamora and Thanos.
That scene was crazy.
Yeah.
The whole, even the meetup between Gamora's sister and all, just that whole sequence.
Yeah, Nebula's another one of those characters who was in it just for a little bit, but again, I wouldn't want to see more of her. No. I thought she was in just the right amount.
She had enough emotional impact, and it was enough to... Because you needed that for Gamora's character arc. The little bit of character arc she did have was with Nebula. Yeah. You see her when Nebula is suffering, that you see Gamora have that internal struggle within herself.
Yeah. And then the whole part of the film on Volmir.
That was crazy.
That, another moment where, like, and also then Gamora's backstory with her as a kid.
Yeah.
Another scene, Thanos committing total genocide. Awesome to see that.
And then when like Thanos turns her head away to make it so she doesn't look at it.
And then Volmir, both those scenes are great for Thanos because it shows that he is actually capable of love, in a different way than most.
If you love, but
yeah. But also just the fact, like, his commitment that he thinks he's committing like a necessary evil for the benefit of the universe. That he is the hero of this film, which is an amazing point of view. Again, a ballsy one. But I'm so glad they were willing to do.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. And, yeah. Then Red Skull.
Oh, yeah.
I was not expecting that, but I'm so glad it happened.
It was just a little bit to make it. It was a cherry on top.
Yes, it was a cherry on top. Especially since they couldn't get the Fox character. Of all the characters that they own the rights to, he's the person who I'm glad was there. Who basically took the role of... I heard a lot of people saying he basically played Death in the movie. I equate him more to Mephisto.
Yeah.
Because from the comic books, Mephisto was kind of the one who's just kind of taking a backseat, like, watching Thanos do everything that he did.
He's basically watching Thanos do everything that he wanted to do and couldn't do.
It's almost like the reader's point of view.
Because you do get that little bit of dialogue where he's like, I held once in my hand for a brief second, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So I thought Red Skull felt more like a Mephisto to me. But then, like, he was, of course, just there for exposition, but I'm glad that, like, they didn't just make up a character or put in someone who we didn't know.
Or just put in a shadow and you never actually see a face or anything.
But I thought Red Skull was just cool to see there, and just that whole scene was so beautifully done. And I'm guessing, in terms of the Thanos acronym, that I've heard a lot of people saying H could be Hydra because Red Skull was there. I think that's a stretch. There's another H. Heart was the one that I heard.
Well, and then the one that you talked about when we got out, that one was, it's still a stretch.
But that's the one I'm leaning most towards, is Hill. Because that whole part there happened on kind of a hillish mountain. Which I think is an equal stretch to Necklace.
Yeah.
Because that was the one thing that struck me about Necklace. Like, oh, you don't even have to say exactly what it is. You can just be totally, like, generic with it. Which, when I saw that, that was the first thing. I mean,
I understand. I understand. Like, it had to look like a mountain, but at the same time, it's a stretch, but it works. I guess. But
maybe they'll announce what the H really is.
We'll see.
Or maybe they'll just say, that was a weird coincidence. The Thanos acronym's wrong.
That doesn't exist, actually.
So, either possibility is possible, but I thought that whole bit with the Soul Stone was fantastic. And again, they were not, like, Marvel has, like, a kid audience as well. It's not just people our age. But I thought the fact that they're willing to have the balls to put a moment where Thanos tosses his daughter off a cliff and they show her dead body lying there with the blood.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Marvel, for not pulling your punches there. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my takeaway from the film. I hope it sticks, but I am so happy that Marvel wasn't willing to pull their punches.
Yeah. So then we could probably cut all the way to the Black Panther scene, and then eventually talk about Vision.
That whole segment, from them getting to Wakanda.
I love Wakanda so much.
That was amazing.
Like, seeing Black Panther, like, Wakanda, like, looks phenomenal. Like, as far as just the way it looks. And then just the battle sequences there and just the fights that take place and everything there just felt so natural. It
did. And I love the shield bit. It felt like kind of that strategy thing of them having to open it.
To prevent them from surrounding. Because that's when they're trying to remove That's when Shuri is trying to remove the stone from Vision.
And then, also, as soon as Scarlet Witch jumped down and got into the Wakanda fight...
Oh, and then when T'Challa's general is like, why hasn't she been down here the whole time? That was a pretty good touch. I like that. And then you see Thor.
Yeah, oh my god, Thor.
He just appeared out of nowhere.
That was amazing. That entire fight. There were so many amazing little gems.
And you see the power of the axe.
Yes, the Stormbreaker axe is just crazy.
Holy cow.
Like, Mjolnir, step aside, Stormbreaker's here.
And, like so basically, like, once Thor gets there, he just dominates the fight. He just basically kills everything in its sight. So, he plays a huge role there. Then we get to the Vision bit.
Yeah, so let's kind of... Are we going to skip ahead until kind of that forest bit where it's, like, the much smaller fights?
That's what I was thinking about, yeah.
You got, let's see, it was Hulk in Black Dwarf was one, or Hulkbuster in Black Dwarf. Yeah. Which we talked about briefly, the weird kind of dialogues there, but it was also nice that Banner kind of proved that he doesn't need the Hulk.
Yeah, he did have, and that was with one arm.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, so.
Granted, he wouldn't have been able to do that with two arms, but I thought that moment was great, and then the we don't trade lives bit with Cap Vision versus Glaive.
Well, yeah, and that whole we don't trade lives thing, that line comes up multiple times, which is significant and as its whole. So
yeah. So, and are there any other of the little fights?
No.
Is that it? Okay.
And then Thanos shows up after getting the stone.
Holy shit, that was crazy.
That slow-mo stuff.
Just of him just. All he did was just move his arm around.
Yeah, because you see the Hulkbuster go towards him, and then you see him just melt him into the wall. Yeah. And you just see all this slow motion fighting.
And a good amount of those were just one stone at a time. Like, I'll use this stone on you.
And you could see, and you saw the stone light up, so you knew which stone he was using.
Yes, which is again great touch.
And then you get that moment between Vision and Scarlet where
that was a great emotional moment. Which I don't think was detracted by the Time Stone. I think it was great they had both deaths in Vision.
Yeah.
The fact that Scarlet Witch had to kill him, but then also Thanos ripping out the stone. Which added
the whole Scarlet having to kill him added to that whole, their arc, which I think was probably the best in the movie.
Absolutely. And
so, like, basically everyone else is just fending Thanos off to hopefully buy Scarlet enough time.
Which, one thing that we need to point out, because I don't get why nobody else is making a big deal about this. Like, I haven't seen this being a big headline on any of the forums or anything, but in the trailer, you saw the two stones in the gauntlet, and Captain America holding back Thanos with the two stones. And people were freaking out then, like, how can he do that? He's got two stones. Bitch, he's got fucking 5 in the actual film. Yeah. And no one's caring that Cap is able to hold back Thanos, who kicked the Hulk's ass with with his hand.
So basically, Cap.
5 stones.
Well, no, when Thanos beat the Hulk, he did have 1 stone.
Yes.
So that just proves that Cap is stronger than we think.
Oh my god.
I was prepared. Honestly, I was prepared for Cap to die. Yes.
But then
I was mentally prepared.
Thanos couldn't beat him with the Infinity Gauntlet.
And you saw Thanos' brief second of his face. He's like
it's the same look that Hulk Thor had when Cap almost lifted the hammer. Yeah. It's that same kind of wait, what?
What? Yeah.
I think we're severely underestimating Captain America. Yeah. Like severely, because again, I was expecting Thanos to be able to overpower him with that hand. He couldn't. He had to use his other arm to get him off because he legitimately was in a stalemate here. Yeah. It's the equivalent of us arm wrestling and then me having to do this.
Yeah, it's basically what. So that just proves that we gotta watch Cap now.
Yes, which I hope plays a big part in Avengers 4. That they call that out and that's not like a little moment because that's huge. Yeah.
So then Scarlet gets to the point where you see her in tears as she's destroying the stone. Mm-hmm. Then you see that moment when the stone finally breaks. Yep. And
she's also very powerful, which at least some people are talking about that. Like, she can destroy Infinity Stones.
Well, yeah, because the whole scene with Vision earlier where he's like, yeah, we need to use something with almost as equal power.
Yeah. Are we not going to talk about that Scarlet Witch
contains that power?
Is about as powerful as the Infinity Stone? Like, that's crazy.
So then it breaks. Then you have that whole like mini, not even really explosion, but soul explosion.
Yeah, it was more like a wave.
So
energy wave kind of thing.
Then you see like it's almost like a fake look on Thanos' face.
He's
like
unfazed. It's basically it's like kind of like you're strong.
It was like
I'll take note of that.
It was like one of those things where he's like, I can pretend to be upset about it, but in reality, I'm just gonna turn back time.
Yeah, it was just kind of. If anything, it was more like, "Oh, you poor soul, you think you won."
You think you won, yeah.
Like that was almost more.
I think he almost said something like that too. He said something close to that, and so then he just moves back, goes back in time. Yeah. Then takes the stone.
Again, and shows just how powerful the time stone is.
Then what I also liked is as soon as he took out the stone out of his head, you see Vision's color just gone. Yes. You just see him. He's basically a shadow.
That's also how he was in Age of Ultron before he got the stone, which was a great callback.
Basically, the stone powers him. Yeah. Which is good. And then you have Thor.
Thor just almost killing Thanos, which is another, like, there are some heavy hitters in the Avengers that are not getting the attention they deserve. Like, Thor
even that scene, like, even just seeing him in the clouds with the lightning all around him, and then you see his eyes glowing and all of that. It's just insane. Yeah. And then he stabs him in the chest.
And then I want to point out the fact that on Twitter, I think a month before the movie came out, and you can check this on the Just Free Studios Twitter. In fact, I'm just going to go pull up the actual date here. I tweeted the comic panel of basically Thanos doing the snap of his fingers. You guys can't really see that, but you can go to the Twitter page and look at it there. But basically, my tweet was, would anyone else lose it if they ended Infinity War like this?
And they did.
They ended Infinity War like that. And also, I love the continuity of, in the comic panel, you guys, again, can check this on my Twitter, the panel goes to white. In the film, blooms to white. Yep. That was a great touch.
Then you see everyone you didn't expect to die.
Oh my god.
To just disappear.
Again, in my brain, the perfect ending would have been snap of the finger, cut to black, roll credits, no post-credit scene. But I think it almost was more impactful that they didn't cut to black there. They showed everybody die.
And like Marvel had huge balls to make Black Panther be one of the first to go.
Like, that's like, wow, Black Panther did really well. Let's kill him off.
Oh, like, Black Panther's still in the theaters as this movie's coming out. Let's just make him disappear. Everyone loves him. Let's just. But going off of that. I want stuff to stick, but we do know that people do have to come back.
At the bare minimum, which Spider-Man's death was probably one of the
highest. My.
I'm not feeling so
Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Like that. No, and that, it goes back to Homecoming a little bit, because you have that scene between Tony and Peter where Peter's like, I can't let you die on my watch because I can't have something like that on my conscience. And he literally dies in his hands. And it is... Oh my
And one thing I wasn't expecting, Tony didn't know what to say. Yeah. That's like one of the few times where
Tony got choked up. Words. So as much as Peter gets on Tony's nerves, I think there's some kind of extreme relationship there. So... But so we know he has to come back.
Yep.
Black Panther
bare minimum.
So Groot has to come back.
Well, I think Star-Lord will, but I'm guessing all the Guardians who turned to dust will. But post Volume 3, they did confirm entirely new roster for Guardians. Okay. So it could make sense in Volume 3, like Quill, Rocket, maybe Drax.
So does Volume 3 take place after Infinity War?
Yes, okay. I believe.
Well, I mean, if they haven't confirmed that, then it could just take place before, and
that's a good point.
Everyone's already alive because.
Imagine the balls to have Volume 3 be Sylvester Stallone's Guardians that formed at the end of Volume 2.
Oh my! But so really quick, I wanted to bring up an idea that I just thought about. So, it would be kind of interesting. So going back to the whole Thanos thing and how he needs to learn how to use the stones, we've talked about it before. Thanos has the capability of being unbeatable, but the thing with that is he is so set-minded that that is his weakness. So in order for them to win, they have to outsmart him.
Yes.
So you remember the scene in the park with Tony and Peter and then you have Doctor Strange his friend, and the scene where the arm gets cut off. What if something happened with that with Thanos?
They could, but the thing that I've noticed every time so far, that because a lot of people online said, well, why didn't they just do that when they're holding him back? I'm guessing that Thanos just naturally is very resilient. Like, he's been shot and stuff, and it's like, oh well. Like, the only thing that we've really seen pierce his skin is Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
So maybe Stormbreaker cuts his hand off or something, but like, otherwise, I think his skin is just naturally very resilient. And also, his reaction time.
That's true.
Like, maybe while his brain was under, but every other time, his reaction time is crazy. Like, again, with the Loki stab thing.
Yeah.
He's very good about catching stuff and not getting caught off guard in that. But I agree. They got to do something where they make him think they're doing one thing and then just pull. And
going back to the whole Doctor Strange thing, one of his last lines is just that we're in the end game now. So basically, and we've talked about it, is that they had to let him think that he's won.
Yep. And
let his guard down a little bit in order to...
Which I think is that one possibility. Because that's, I think, why Thanos is just so tunnel vision on achieving his goal. When he thinks that he's won, that's, I think, the perfect time to strike.
And then also, after Thanos does the whole snap thing, you get that brief moment between Thor and him, and you see the gauntlet just torn up. And then Thor's, like, just looking at it, and he's like, what did you do? And then there's not any more dialogue after that. So...
And again, that's also a good character thing. Thanos doesn't say another word. He's done. He's won. He doesn't need to, which could be his downfall.
Yeah.
So are we good to address Avengers 4 ideas before we end it off?
Yeah.
Or we think they might go? So, biggest questions... Actually, let's talk about the post-credit scene first. Excuse me. So, we got the Nick Fury, which shows where he's been, question mark?
Yeah.
Basically, that scene was basically just to set up why Captain Marvel is going to come to Earth for Avengers 4.
Another question... Well, another character that we don't know, like, quite where she is Valkyrie.
Yes, and from what I've heard, I don't know if it was the Russo brothers or the director of Ragnarok, said that she was one of the 50% that got away. So, again, that would have been at least something that might have been worth seeing or at least mentioning.
Yeah.
But, because I'm a believer of if they don't say it in the film, it didn't happen. Like, I hate the...
having to make assumptions.
Post-movie corrections.
Yeah.
That, like, it's the same thing like Star Wars did when they killed off Darth Maul in Phantom Menace. George Lucas said, oh, but he's not really dead. Have we seen him in any of the other movies?
No.
No, then he's dead. Yeah. That's my mentality on it. But anyway, continuing on. Yeah, so that post-credit scene was, making a joke at Nick Fury saying, motherfucker, and establishing why Captain Marvel's going to be there.
Which, it served its purpose. I'm kind of glad we saw it, even though it would have been kind of cool to see.
I think it would have been better if they didn't have a post-credit scene in this movie. If this was the first Avengers movie, or first Marvel movie, that didn't have a post-credit scene, imagine how much the audience would have freaked out.
It didn't hurt, though.
It didn't hurt. It just, I still feel it could have been better. But I still think it was good.
Yeah.
Hey, is that... Hello? Hey, come on in.
Hey there.
We're just wrapping this up, and this is actually a perfect time. We just talked about Infinity War. You can set your gauntlet here. Show the viewers out here.
Right there.
So, let me see if I can clear you a seat here. But basically... Actually, come over around here, Mike. We'll have you go first. So we just went through basically the entire Infinity War movie. Into the mic. What do you think they're going to do going forward with Avengers 4?
Well, my belief is that like they're probably gonna finally bring in Ant-Man and Captain Marvel.
Yep.
Finally, and it'll probably like just like as I said, like a year after thing, like with the like whole incident, and then we'll see like maybe like Stark a little, I don't know, like a little not him due to like what happened during the fight with Thanos and losing Peter Parker and so most of his like team and all that.
So you think there's going to be a significant amount of time between Infinity War and Avengers 4?
Yes, that's what I believe.
Yeah. Interesting.
And like Cap and Rocket and like mostly everyone else who survived dealing with their own things. Like, for taking, like, Rocket, for instance, he was dealing with, like, tremendous loss of Groot, and just, like, no, probably gonna know that, like, half his team is gone, except, like, Nebula.
Yeah, Nebula's, like...
Yeah, and they don't really get along, but it'll be interesting to see if, like, you know, they can, like, deal with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So something I had mentioned to you earlier is that the whole thing about Avengers 4 potentially being named Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, my guess is my prediction, just saying it now, is Endgame. But go on.
But so the one thing I will say is that Kevin has confirmed that it's not that. It's not Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, and James Gunn also.
So there's that. But there's just the one question I don't think you had answered, and I asked. Mm-hmm. So Tony and Captain Marvel can use the gauntlet, correct?
In terms of the comics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think maybe because they're gonna have, like I said, they're gonna have to outsmart him in some way. Mm-hmm. But I'm guessing they're gonna have to get the gauntlet from him and go back in time to some point.
Yeah. So
I'm guessing it just has. I'm not sure how they're gonna outsmart him yet, but it's gonna happen because I think Avengers 4, Thanos does get defeated.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has to.
Yeah. Before I kind of tag on to that, Raphael, in my room there's a black stool. You can go ahead and grab that and sit down right here. There might be a paper on it. Just take that paper off.
Got it.
And you can just sit right there. But kind of piggybacking off of that, some of the set pictures for Avengers 4 take place during the Battle of New York. So what if, using the time stones, they accidentally go back that far? Because you see Cap in the costume he wore in that movie, and everyone in the stuff they wore in that movie. Granted, the weird thing is, Ant-Man's there. So maybe he just gets pulled back when they use the time stone. Mm-hmm. And could you imagine them redoing the Battle of New York with Thanos there and Ant-Man there?
Oh, man.
Like, that would be interesting. And basically retell that fight. Ooh.
That'd be interesting.
Wait a second. How crazy would it be if that timeline is going on the same time as the timeline from the first Avengers is happening, so they can't run into their past selves as well? I don't know. I'm just spitballing
I don't know.
That would be interesting. Like,
I think
two fights happening.
I think Captain Marvel. I want to see Captain Marvel, and then we'll see what goes on.
Yeah.
Because it'll be interesting. Captain Marvel has something to do with it, I'm guessing.
Yes.
She wouldn't be called to Earth if she isn't going to have a role.
Well, also, she's like Scarlet Witch level powerful.
Oh, yeah.
So,
like, super
And we
strong.
just went on about how strong Scarlet Witch is.
So let's go over the Avengers roster for Avengers 4. So you got Iron Man, you got Cap. You got Banner.
Thor.
You got Thor.
Yeah.
I'm going over the classic Avengers first. You got Black Widow.
Hawkeye. Which is probably, like...
Ronan in this movie. I'm so happy about
that. I'm happy for that, too, actually. Like, nice.
And I believe that's the original cast. Then you got War Machine. You have Rocket. You got Nebula. Who am I forgetting?
Ms.
Marvel, Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Or Captain Marvel. I still call her Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, so that's 11.
What about Wasp?
Wasp, probably, yeah.
I mean, it'll be nice, just like...
Yeah, especially because in the trailers, they make a point of her not being in Civil War.
Yeah.
So she's probably not going to sit out on this one.
Yeah, she better not.
So that would be 12. And also, it would be nice to see another female.
Oh, wait, who is Black Panther's sister?
Shuri.
Shuri, yeah, she's in it too. At least I hope she didn't die. Like, disappear.
You don't see
Black Panther is like the only Wakandan.
Yeah.
Well, you like the random people.
Yeah, random people.
Die.
Wait, what about that general dude?
We see him alive.
Okay, cool. I was wondering, like, did he die?
Yeah, Black Panther's like basically sidekick, if you want to call him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the roster?
So far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until we see what happens.
Yeah, which...
Because there's been many rumors going on.
My question is unless the only thing where they can get away with keeping people dead is that if all the movies that have already been announced just take place before Infinity War.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
The interesting thing is, what movies do you think they've confirmed for Phase 4?
Definitely Spider-Man 2. I know. Black Panther.
See, the interesting thing is they have said, like, yeah, we're making another Black Panther. We're making another blah, 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 like Volume 3. The actual ones that they have slated are way less than you think. Because they've actually, like, because they like years ago, before Civil War even, they showed like, here's the timeline for the MCU. They've basically taken off everything post Avengers 4 for right now.
Dang.
And it's all unnamed. So, of course, we are definitely getting Black Panther Homecoming Volume 3.
Especially with the success
of Black Panther. From a business standpoint, we're definitely getting them. But, like, even at least in my brain, I thought they confirmed more than they did. At least, like, directors and all that have said they want to make another blank, and at least I've taken that as confirmed when, according to Marvel, there's, like, nothing post in Avengers 4 that they've officially said, like, this is the movie and it's coming out blank.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
That is true. Like, I don't know, I heard, like, Ghost Rider, something like that.
Well, he's been on the Netflix stuff. Or not Netflix, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff.
I heard something about that.
I'd love to see, like, the Defenders in the movie universe, and then, like, Ghost Rider and all the other TV characters, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's mainly just because they have so many characters already.
As it is,
yeah.
I'm excited to see them go to the cosmic Marvel universe and start doing more space stuff.
That is cool. Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else we want to talk about before we end this? You've missed most of it, so is there any Infinity War spoiler stuff you want to quickly get off? No, it's fine.
Yeah, well, I think I talked to you about this, so I thought it was pretty interesting. Was just like they didn't really make a big deal about it when it came to like Cap like holding on to like Thanos. Like I
nerded out about it.
Yeah, I really like that part. Really dig the ending like to that because like for like some fans like, oh okay, that's cool. For others they're like overreacting and all that. For them I see it as the biggest fuck you ever towards like a film. Like, how you gotta wait another year for that, huh?
Well, at least it's not 2 years.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, they planned it through, so I'm kind of excited about that. And also hearing rumors that like the deaths are permanent.
I hope most of them are.
Yeah, that's what I hope too. Like well,
Gamora, I hope sticks. Vision, I hope sticks.
Yeah.
Loki,
yeah. Sticks. Heimdall, I hope
I was
sticks.
very surprised that he died that quickly.
I expected it. I thought this.
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be the first death.
Yeah, like that easily. Like, oh, they just killed him off right now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming, but yeah.
So we good to call it quits here?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll start the podcast and actually get into stuff. But thank you guys for watching this very awesome Let's Talk Movies. An hour 17 minutes, so not really a mini
17
podcast.
Minutes, dang.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching.
Hi.
And again, leave in the comments below your thoughts, any spoiler stuff you want to talk about, and at least I'll be commenting with you guys and making this discussion last beyond the video. But actually, I should probably talk into the mic. Yeah. You good?
Yeah. Hold up. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. And thank you guys for watching. Please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends. And we're going to do the JV podcast now, so make sure you check that out. Thanks, guys. Later.
Bye.
And now that awkward moment when I hit stop record, but the stream